Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today. Boy, do we have a lot going on every day. It seems like there's whiplash. And as you well know, and I thank you all for taking me into your hearts and for making space for me and this wonderful crew that who are on the show with you every day. Um, we have to tape several hours in advance and we want to be as timely as we can be. So as we speak, we're watching the impact of a 90-day pause on tariffs on every place but China, right? So we've seen the stock market go all the way up. So Wall Street is rejoicing, but Main Street and your street are still in a lot of pain. Kind of lets you know who the corporate media speak for. They don't speak for you. They don't speak for me. They speak for thee. So please support independent media because eggs are still unaffordable for too many people. And more things that you need, not things that you want, things that you need every day, are increasingly out of reach. And there's something that we need to do about it. They're closing Social Security offices. That's a big deal. More and more people need more and more services, but fewer and fewer people are able to deliver them. We've got fewer government workers, but you have the power in your hands. And that power, it comes from the vote. But something's happening in Texas, which is next to California, I believe. Well, it's certainly one of the most populous states in the nation, and it is the most diverse, along with California. Absolutely mixed, and it has more Black people than any other state in the nation. And it's just a tremendous mix of everybody. It really is a quintessentially American state. And something very interesting is happening there. Sheila Jackson Lee, the brilliant legislator, Harvard trained lawyer, someone who championed reparations, who really was a champion for the downtrodden in the world. She fought and fought and fought for her life, and she lost her battle to cancer in July of last year. We were all devastated, loved her so much, but she ran her race and she did such a fine job. And so her daughter took over, and then her daughter said, well, you know what? This is not a job, it's a mission. And so she said, I think someone else would be better at this seat. So Sylvester Turner, the much beloved and respected mayor, our former mayor of Houston, said, okay, well, I will run for the seat. Not before Sheila Jackson Lee's daughter blessed it. Just so that you know, I want to set this up for you to let you know how this worked out. And he won because, as I said, he's beloved, and he ought to have been beloved because he was a great public servant. Shockingly, he passed away hours after the State of the Union address. No one can believe it. He and Congressman Cleo Fields, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, my brother, they had just founded the DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives. They were doing a lot of great work together. He was doing a lot of great work for this reliably blue seat. More than 80% of the vote typically goes to the Democrat and to the person who is sent there by the people to run. Okay, so unlike the House, unlike the upper house in Congress, the upper house in Congress, if there's a vacancy, if a member passes, if a senator dies or resigns, the governor gives you a plum assignment. They bestow an appointment upon you, and that's how you get into the U.S. Senate. But the people's house, the people's rules rule. You got to have a special election. I don't care. And they can call it the next day. But you got to have a special election. So in this closely divided nation, when gerrymandering really has Democrats vastly, grossly underrepresented anyway, and in a very, very close House. Now they're up by 7 seats now. They're really up by 7 or 8 seats because Governor Abbott had been under fire, the governor of Texas, for not not having a special election. Now he's going to have one, but Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds is going to be in November. So That district will spend 9 months not being represented in the House of Representatives. Attorney Mark Fancher and veteran Democratic strategist and award winning media maven out of Detroit, Lavonia Perryman joins us, brilliant journalist. Okay, Representative Ron Reynolds, take us away. You're the one who presented this to us.
Yeah, Santita, thank you for bringing this out. And I apologize in advance that I had to leave early. But let me tell you why this is so important. First of all, this is personal to me and all of the constituents of the 18th congressional districts, as well as people that live in the greater Houston area. We loved Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. She served, she was the people's congresswoman. She was there for her constituents. And then, obviously you laid it out, her daughter filled the vacancy for her unexpired term. And then my former colleague, he was a state representative before he was the mayor, my fraternity brother and beloved great Mayor Sylvester Turner. He won the election for the full term, and unfortunately he passed away. And so we were already just dealing with so many emotions, so much agony and pain and stress, especially those constituents that live in that 18th congressional district, a historic district that was once held by the late great Barbara Jordan and Mickey Leland and Craig Washington. Those were Star Wars. This is a historic seat. And to add insult to injury, Governor Abbott had the ability to call a special session that would have been for the uniform election for May that's coming up. There's an election that's coming up in May, Santita, that he could have easily called this election for. But we know.
So wait. I just want to make sure that everybody gets this right. He passed in March. You're already going to have an election in May.
Yes. There are two uniform elections.
So he's skipping the uniform election in May.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I'm glad you're not glossing over that part, because I was going fast. You're right. The people need to know there's an upcoming municipal election in May the 5th. Governor Abbott could have called the special election for this 18th congressional district, which everyone was saying, hey, May's the next election. Governor Abbott's going to have this election in May. Governor Abbott never said anything about it. And our Constitution gives the governor the sole authority to call the special election. So this was Governor Abbott's purview. There was a lot of noise. You heard Hakeem Jeffries, me, your good friend, Commissioner Rodney Ellis. A lot of us were saying Governor Abbott needs to call a special session. The people, the Houston Chronicle. And so Governor Abbott finally said, well, you know what? I'm not. The reason why I didn't call one immediately, because there's been a lot of election problems in Houston with Harris County. So you know what? They need more time. I'm going to set it in November. There was a bunch of, Santita, with all due respect, it was a pretext for, I want to keep those constituents disenfranchised, because when they elect someone, they're going to be Democrat. And I'm trying to help Speaker Johnson and the MAGA Republicans keep the biggest majority that they can have by the very thin margins, so that they can pass whatever legislation I get for them. And therefore, I don't care about those 800,000+ people that are dependent on their congressperson to be their voice in Congress for Social Security benefits, to handle passports, to make sure that their seniors are getting their health care. I mean, these are real things. Their veterans are being able to get their veteran benefits. I know people right now, Santita, that are calling my office, my state office, right? State representative office, because there is no congressional representative to handle their needs. That is a fact right now. We are getting calls from people that live in the 18th congressional district, says, hey, would you please help me? I'm trying to get a passport. I don't have a congressperson. I call and the people aren't returning phone calls. This isn't happening. That isn't happening. That doesn't happen when you have a member in Congress. They hold their staffs accountable. I'm the person that directs my staff to make sure if there are problems, I'm getting rid of people that aren't being accountable to my constituents. So right now they don't have a voice. So Santita, this is disenfranchisement. Governor Abbott is playing partisan politics, and people are losing federal congressional representation that our constitutional guarantees them to have. And so I'm very frustrated. I'm upset. And this is outrageous and unconscionable that these people are going to have to wait over 200 days with no congressional representative and likely a runoff, because there's a whole lot of people that are likely to run in the seat. If no one gets 50 plus 1%, this election goes to a runoff in December. So the reality is this election likely will go into December, and then the person will get sworn in when Congress is probably in recess for the Christmas break. This is ridiculous. This
So
is
you're missing all of these votes really for almost for a year.
Almost for a year, basically for the entire 2025. They will have no congressional representative to represent their needs and to be their voice, to have a seat at the table, to when it comes to resources, when it comes to whatever. I mean, Congress, they have to do a lot. There's a lot of different things that they have to do other than, cutting ribbons. They have to take key votes. They're there to present proclamations. They're there to advocate for constituents' needs. They help get resources to the cities that they represent, to the counties that they represent, to the boards and commissions. There's a lot that goes into it, and Governor Abbott seems to be like, well, whatever. I don't care about those 800. Nearly 1 million people are being disenfranchised right now. Nearly 1 million people for a full year with no representation. The Republicans want to talk about it, but this is taxation without representation.
The Democrats don't want to talk about it. Let me bring up Diane Gibson. She is Miss Rainbow Bush down there in Texas. Diane Gibson.
Yes.
And too few people know about this. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. People don't know about this. This to me is a talking point. And while I'm seeing all these people dancing in the hallway, showing me what they're doing, this, that, and the third, I am not hearing about a crucial seat that the Democrats need, Livonia, Mark Fancher, Attorney Fancher, Diane Gibson. And wait a minute, beyond the vote, like you said, people need to find out. I need you to help me with Social Security. Right. The offices are closed. I'm physically challenged. I'm not mobile, or I don't have internet. I mean, all I've got is a phone. I mean, there's just so much. And you're telling me the office is just open. There's nobody's there. That is absolute. I mean, while I'm looking at the Republicans and the games that they're playing, Democrats are playing a game too. Mm-hmm. Because they need to send out all of these people who do all this talking, who having these town halls and whatnot. They should be out here town halling on this part.
Yes.
This part. Yes. Now, while people are having these fights in the committee meetings, and those are real, I get it. Yeah. Everybody's popping their collar. I got it. You need to pop your collar about this, because a lot of people are not being represented. I didn't say underrepresented. They have no voice. They have no one to help them. I know you've got to go, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, but I brought in Diane Gibson, who she says she's in retirement now, but she, like Livonia, is one of the founders of the Rainbow. We've been together a long
Yes, we have.
And when I called you to ask you about it, you said, wait a minute, what? Hold on. And now, whenever Reverend touched down in the great state of Texas, I don't care if it was north, south, east, or west, Diane Gibson, always like Livonia, met Reverend up in Detroit. Mm-hmm. Diane Gibson met Reverend somewhere in Texas.
This is true.
And so I'm trying to let people know you understand the state.
Right.
How is it that you do not know about this?
I have no idea. I don't want to really make excuses. First, good afternoon to everyone. I don't want to make excuses, but we have local elections going on. So I'm going to say that the Senate is in session. And so maybe it's because of all of that, because of local elections, that's why they're saying, I know maybe for me, that's probably why. But I'm always on social media. I haven't even seen anything on social media until you brought it to my attention. So now I posted it on everything. But I also did a little research too. And when I went back to research, I was like, I know we've had a congressperson to die that was in office. And true enough, it was one that did die. And that was during the COVID time too. That was during that COVID area.
Mhm.
And when he actually passed, 3 months after his death, the Republicans, the current governor, called a special election. So I just didn't understand, and I'm one that always says it has to make sense to me because, in the words of my dad, he said if it didn't make sense, it can't make change. So I don't understand why is it that for the Republican Party, same governor in the state of Texas, it only took 3 months for the special election, but now for this one, he can't do it until November. I'm not understanding that. And
And
this is in one of the areas in the state of Texas that where at least over 51% of the households fall below the poverty guideline. If anybody need a vote and need a voice, it's them in the third ward in the city of Houston.
well, I'm trying to figure all of this out because I'm not hearing the Democrats say anything.
It's
Now,
mom's the word.
you're head of the Black Legislative Caucus, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds. You're the one who actually sounded the alarm on this.
Hmm.
What's next?
Well, what's next is there needs to be some legal challenges because we don't have any legislative authority. There needs to be legal challenges brought to have a court to push Governor Abbott to bring this election sooner. That's going to be a big stretch, but it's worth fighting for because
Right.
Governor Abbott, as Diane just stated, these are a lot of underserved. A lot of these
Hmm.
people are indigent. A lot of these
Hmm.
people are disabled. A lot of these people rely on their Social Security. And a
Hmm.
lot of these people have no voice right now to represent their interests. And a lot of times it can be a matter of life or death.
They
And
sure
so
can.
this is a fundamental a derelict of Governor Abbott's duty. He has a duty to represent all Texas, and he is
That's right.
disenfranchising these ones that live in the 18th congressional district. I guarantee you, Santita, on everything I have, if this was a Republican district,
Oh yeah.
Well.
he never would have let this happen. He's
Mhm.
only doing this because he wants to put his thumb on the scale to disenfranchise these people, to give the Republicans as much edge as they can
Leverage. That's right.
on these marginal votes to pass any measures that they're trying to pass, and that is undemocratic. That
Well,
is
and let me
patriotic.
say this, and it is. And to be fair,
Mhm.
Hakeem Jeffries, Leader Jeffries, was going to sue the governor of Texas when he wouldn't come up with an election date.
Special election day.
I,
Hmm.
I think that I think he needs to follow through with the suit.
That's
I think
correct.
we should support him in
We
that
got
because
to.
he
That's
was
true.
inclined to do that, and I think we need to push. Now you understand Washington politics, Livonia, because this is where you've been, and and you understand Democratic politics. What should the national Democrats be doing in your estimation? Because you've not only done local and state politics, you've also been working with the DNC itself for many decades. Okay, you're muted. All this genius on mute.
First and foremost, they mean the Democratic Party,
You're right.
must remember why they exist. That's number one. And they
Hmm.
exist to give a voice to those individuals that we're speaking about, that Representative Reynolds has spoken to and spoken about. Right now, Democrats, and I'm one, will be one,
Yes.
Democrats, the message should be we should, under our big tent, we talk about the big tent, that this
Hmm.
tent and the people who are in this group called Democrats, I'm not even talking to Republicans right now, Democrats should
Hmm.
come together, support Hakeem, thank you,
Yes.
Representative, and Representative Reynolds and
Hmm.
Diane and the people in that congressional district. They should demand that they have a voice. And you're right, Representative Reynolds. There is no legal ramification
Hmm.
push Abbott. When we did the research, Diane, as you did and I did too, they can go to the Secretary of State. And I would like to say to those individuals who are listening and watching this show, if you're in that Texas area, you can file a complaint with your Secretary of State in the state of Texas to say that you are being denied the right for your taxes to be used to support those people in this community, that your voice and your voice vote are not being heard. The individuals within that community can support this effort. On the national level, it should be a clarion call from the DNC to the other state representatives around the country. This is a national, this has national significance. Guess why? Because Abbott knows what we know, that if he holds up this vote until November, the Republicans, now I'm speaking to the Republicans, they are really on a thin ice in Washington. They can move certain issues, legislation and policy, and not this one vote. Keep in mind, everybody, I want people to hear me, that your one vote can make a heck of a difference. I want to give you an example. Congressman John Conyers, when he first ran for Congress, this is true, first time, he came out with 1 to 2 votes. Just think about it. And the rest is history. Your one vote makes a difference. So the congressional members, the DNC, and the representatives around the country, this is a national issue that should be addressed by all people.
But I think we have to have an insult level. And I'm an independent Democrat, because I can't vote for my brother, quite frankly, if I don't register with a party, because I'm clear that this is about power.
Oh yes.
I'm constantly clarifying for people when people say that Reverend built the Democratic Party. Yeah, he did. But what he was doing, he was running for democracy, and to save and to rescue the republic. This was not about a party. This was about the people who asked him to run. You know that, Diane.
Right.
Because this was not something that he was inclined to do. He felt that Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young would be better because they were crossover politicians who were mainstreamed. Really, Andrew Young more so than Maynard Jackson, because Maynard Jackson did so much for Black people in Atlanta that once his time as mayor was over, they would not allow him to make any money in Atlanta. He had to come to Chicago. Harold Washington brought him to Chicago and put him in a law firm because he could not make a dime in Atlanta. So this thing, I'm looking at the Republicans.
But you may, if I may interject, if I may go a little further, it is about power. That's what I'm saying. It's a national issue.
I'm agreeing with you.
It's like the people in Washington understand that the politics is a ground game, and the voices of 800,000, darn near 1 million people is significant. I don't care who you may be. You could be disabled, you could be blind, you could be low income. It's still a vote that can make and turn the table in terms of issues, policies, and legislation. And to hold this up, it was not by accident. This is a strategic move on the Republicans to hold up the Democratic Party from really doing what they should be doing, representing the people in the state of Texas. And Democrats, you need to get on your job and do what is necessary.
They need to sue, and they need to take this issue and make it a national issue. They should.
Because it is.
It is a national issue. But Mark Fancher, because to me, this goes to the heart of the vote. And just, and also an insult level. We need to look at all of this before I come back to you, Diane, because you're down there in Texas and you're like, wait a minute, how is it? I know all the people who are down here. Nobody's talking about this at all.
No.
Mark Fancher, Attorney Fancher, nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, and they won't. The insult level was reached in 1619, and I think that my hope for Black people in this country is that in many ways we become like a surgeon who's performing an operation. When a surgeon is in the midst of surgery, sometimes unexpected things happen. Maybe there's bleeding from an artery that is not supposed to happen there. But the surgeon doesn't panic. The surgeon doesn't become totally upset and exasperated because that's happening. The surgeon very routinely calls upon those who are assisting him to, use suction and to suture and to do whatever it is that's necessary to stop the bleeding, because the surgeon realizes that there's something more important that he needs to concentrate on than just this little aberration, this little thing that happened. He still has a patient there whose life he needs to save. And I think, unfortunately, what happens sometimes is that we emotionally and otherwise, when these kinds of things happen, we direct all of our focus, emotional energy, and attention to this, while losing sight of what the real objective is, which is something much bigger. It may be things that are happening in Washington. It may be a larger agenda, but we're focused on something that has been done deliberately to distract us, something that's been done deliberately to insult us. We put a lot of resources into that while not moving ahead. And the reason that we do that is because I don't think we have an appreciation for how this whole thing works. The way it works is this. One, the whole thing has been designed to ensure that we are never in a position to have power or to exercise it. It has been designed to convince us that the way that we achieve power is by playing the political game, by investing all of our energy and resources in trying to get people elected and trying to keep them there. That's what we've been trained to think. Those who manipulate us and those who control the politics of our community know otherwise, and they don't play the game that way. They don't believe that they can achieve power by getting people elected to office. What they understand is that they have to have their own power that they achieve independently and separate and apart from the political process first. That can take many forms. That can take the form of amassing huge amounts of wealth. It can take the form of having major corporations that have very highly paid lobbyists. It can come from the construction of an empire where they have operations overseas and they have alternative opportunities to accomplish all of the things that are on their agenda. And then after they've got that power that allows them to have leverage to control whatever they want to control, that's when they step into the electoral process. And they will bully, they will threaten, they will cajole, they will do whatever it is that they need to do in order to make things happen in the political process that they want to have happen. And so that's the way they operate it. And to the extent that we, who don't understand that, are in some way trying to interfere with their agenda, then they create crises like this. They create misdirection. They create distractions and other things to keep us off balance, while at the same time reinforcing the idea that we repeat ourselves. The way that we get power is to register to vote and to vote and to vote, to vote, to vote. That's not how you get power. That's how you exercise power after you have achieved it otherwise. And so I think that we need to all take a deep breath and realize that that's what's happening here. I mean, I don't know Texas government and Texas politics, and I don't know what's involved in having a special election, but my bet is that it's probably not a very difficult thing for them to call. That the governor could probably do it. And I don't know Texas law, but to the extent that this is just a routine thing, something that he's obligated to do, then that qualifies under the law as a ministerial act, which means that there's no discretion involved. There's nothing that requires independent judgment. He just has to do something that the law provides. In most jurisdictions, then you can force someone to perform a ministerial act by seeking what's called a writ of mandamus, which directs them just get off the pot and do what you got to do. And if we understand that, and I don't know that that's legally what's happening there, but if that's what we understand, and if we were the surgeons that I would hope that our communities are, when these kinds of things happen, And we don't spend a lot of time throwing up our hands and wringing our hands and worrying about things. All that we do is we say, hey, call the lawyers, have them seek a writ of mandamus, get that governor to do what he's got to do, and let's keep moving forward with our agenda.
You know, Thurgood Marshall wasn't from Little Rock, Arkansas. Okay? I don't need you to be from Texas, Attorney Fancher. I need you to give Diane Gibson what you just gave her. I need you to give Livonia Perryman what you just gave her. I need you to give it to me. Because there are legal, I know that there are legal means by which we can have an election in May. Now they could do that. For these people to be in this time, and it is of critical importance to have an election at this time because there is a need. I was at the Aston Museum down in Montgomery, Alabama. No, yeah, it was in Birmingham, actually. It was in Birmingham. And, you know, Jim Crow, we couldn't stay at the white hotels. But this was one of the wealthiest black businessmen, one of the most successful we have ever produced in our history. And he had a motel that was first class, beautiful restaurant. Everybody, when you went down there, that's where you stayed if you could. And it's now a museum. And his motto for business was fill the need. This is the need. What did you say? The writ of mandamus? Yeah. There is a legal remedy to this. And Diane, but there's also, we have more, and my mother often says, you all have much more than we ever had, and you're doing far less with it.
That's right.
You know, I mean, I don't know why this is so hard. And yeah, I'm calling everybody on the carpet. I'm calling the Republicans on the carpet because you need to call them out on this. But you need to call the Democrats out too. Because this is a game that they're playing. If they're going to vote shame me every election, if I win, I'm not going to give you any credit. But if I lose, it's your fault. That's what they do to black folks all the time. I've got a seat that is mine, and you don't help me to fight for it. Are you for real? We're still relitigating what happened in 2024. Yeah, a lot of people undercut Kamala Harris, and y'all need to deal with that. But right now, the people in Houston are being undercut.
Right.
Actively undercut in a time when they're closing the Social Security offices, when Medicare and Medicaid is increasingly out of reach for people. And Diane, someone as deeply rooted in the community as you said, wait a minute, let me look this up.
Yes.
Who's talking about this?
I couldn't find anything locally.
That's just unbelievable. Oh, so just knowing Texas, as you know, the Republic of Texas, because Texas, you all are. I don't know if you're a country or part of the United States, because you know how you all are in Texas. I mean, it's just,
it all depends on what time of day it is.
You understand
what's the political climate like?
You all are a little bit different. I got to stick my finger up in the wind and find out which you are. Am I in the state or am I in the country of Texas or Mexico North? But I'll leave that alone. Diane, what going forward? Because you've got a lot of great political minds and movers and shakers down in Texas. You've got Rodney Ellis. Yes. No one understands and has been more powerful in state, local, and county politics than Rodney Ellis, who you know, Livonia Perryman. You've worked with him for a long, long time. You've got Representative Reynolds, who was just with us. He's head of the Black Legislative Caucus. You got Jasmine Crockett. She's got all of this profile, and she's a wonderful, wonderful person and very, very involved. This is, to me, this is designed for her. This is designed for everybody.
Yes.
But it shouldn't even. This is something I think of Maxine Waters knew about it, because then now they're trying to deal with the North Carolina case. Mark, they're getting hit with everything because these people are trying to throw out the 65,000 votes that would put this Democratic leaning justice on the state Supreme Court. So they're looking at that. I'm like, while we're looking at that, we got this one over here too.
But if I may interject, Mark makes a good point, and I did a piece on chaos is a legitimate strategy that people use to take you off of your game.
Right.
Chaos is actually in motion right now. You just mentioned what's happening in North Carolina, what's happening in Georgia, what's happening in Washington, D.C., which the Supreme Court on Monday decided to support Trump and says, oh, you know, those 18,000 people that are on hold in terms of their job, oh, you can fire them. That's chaos. Then you got over here, Mark and Diane and Santita, you got Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian. Who would go after the Smithsonian? The African American Smithsonian Institute, that you want to undo level 1 slavery in a museum among 58 other museums.
Is that
and
crazy?
Focus in on a chaos. So you're right, Attorney Mark. You're right.
Sure are.
They're creating chaos all over the country, but we have to stay focused on the saving lives, saving the life of democracy. We have to stay focused, and we have to have a strategy. We have to have a plan. It should not be every day we're just jerking around and we're going to do it this way today and we're going to do it this way tomorrow. No, we should have a master plan. I keep telling folks, remember 2025 plan? That wasn't designed overnight. That was a strategy that went on for 50 years, a 50-year plan. Where is the plan, Democrats? Where is the plan, African American and people of color, to save democracy?
But Livonia, well, first of all, to create it, we've had a plan, but we have been misdirected because we thought with just getting a black president, not the one, but a one, was going to save us. That is not the case. I love President Obama, but I also know his politics were much more conservative than ours were, and he broke an important barrier, which was the color barrier. Okay, that's wonderful, lovely. But what I need is I even need him to speak on these issues. See, because he's a young man, and he commands a lot of respect. And Diane, yeah, I'm calling people out because people are asking Reverend what he's going to do. He is in a wheelchair with Parkinson's, and you know what? He's willing to do it.
He sure is.
But why do y'all
He's
keep going
in a
after
wheelchair
him
with Parkinson?
when
He's
you
willing to
got
do
all these people out here who you have lifted up, and you're asking nothing of them? Nothing. All you want them to do is come out and wave and smile. In the meantime, you've got some people who have some real needs down in Texas.
That's right.
Some of the poorest people in the state are in that district.
That's right.
The most affluent are in that district. But everybody's in need right now. And and I've got a brilliant attorney, Mark Fancher, who's a brilliant attorney. Brilliant. I don't see him in enough spaces, enough places. I don't see you need to know him, Diane Gibson, because you tell people about.
I promise you, I'm taking notes, and I'm about to get my bar card just listening to him. So yes, I'm taking notes, and I'm doing more research once we get off the call. I am definitely taking notes, and then I'm going to get with JL Turner Legal Society because I'm not a legal profession, but I do know how to take good notes.
But you also know how to organize people.
Yes.
Because I think that people need to be organized, and they need to, you talk about a march, Livonia, because that's the plan. The plan is what we have been doing. The thing is, whenever we stopped organizing, when we stopped marching, when we stopped doing the work, we stopped making progress. You know better than anyone.
That's right. That coming after the marches, what do you do? It's
right.
The march.
What happens after?
Very, I keep the march. We can't stop marching. Let's stop. Let's say that. But guess what? The attorney just gave us a plan.
He sure did.
We gave us, okay, what do we do after the march that took place on Friday? What do we do when we got the Supreme Court justices saying, you know what? We're not listening to the citizens. But we got brilliant people. We talk about Thurgood Marshall, Fancher. We got awesome people who are ready to move mountains right now, political mountains that make a difference. He just told us, one, we need to look at the legal ramifications around what is happening. That's a plan. That's an action plan.
But Livonia, you know what? You've got to have street heat.
Yes.
Heat in courts, and you have to have heat in the suites.
That's right.
You got to
That's
have them in
right.
both places because
That's
there
true.
was, let's be straight up. There was tension between NAACP and SCLC
Yes.
because they said, "Well, we're going to take care of this in the courts." We were like, "If you don't have societal pressures bearing down on you, the courts do not care what you're doing."
That's
It
true.
it takes all of these
It takes
pieces.
everybody.
It takes
Right.
everybody. If you don't, if you do not have, and if you need Malcolm X,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you need
Very
another,
good,
you need an
Marshall.
alternative.
Mm-hmm.
You need all of it. You need all of it. And so I'm saying because marching is part of it, and people are like, that is what I've done, and I think that's great. But and marching, coordinating a march that is successful
Right.
takes a whole lot of.
Woo!
But
Ooh, you
now
don't even understand.
after that, what do you do next? You got to
Right.
keep them energized. You got to keep them organized. That's what we have to do because
Mm-hmm.
you have to continue to march. That's what they did down in Montgomery.
Right.
Sure
or
did.
or
They marched for a year and
or
wouldn't get on that bus,
or
on
or,
those buses. Yeah.
or to not march at all. Let me suggest this,
Okay.
Okay.
that when we marched, it was effective because they'd never seen anything like that before.
Now there's
Right.
That threw them off their game. They said, wow, black people in the street. We're used to seeing them, hiding behind shacks and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
hiding.
staying in churches and things like that. And here they're out in the streets confronting us. We're heavily armed, and they're unarmed except for anything but their Bibles, and they have no fear. This threw them off their game. But since that time, they have wised up, and they have developed strategies and plans for how to counteract any kind of public demonstration that we might choose to deal with. And many times they will come and co-opt it. They'll come to the organizers and say, "Yeah, what do you guys need? Extra police protection here? Do you need this, or do you going to need porta potties? Are you going to need this? Let's
Mm-hmm.
plan this march with you." And this is business as usual for them now. The key to success in politics is making the comfortable uncomfortable.
That's right.
Thank you.
And so if they're used to us marching, then we got to figure something else out
Do
that's
something
gonna take
different.
them out of their comfort zone. And the way, whatever it is, whatever the strategy is really secondary to what I think everybody's been saying, which
Mm-hmm.
is organization. That's primary. One of my favorite heroes was Stokely Carmichael or Kwame Ture, by whatever name that you want to call him. And I agreed with almost everything that he said, except for the one thing. He used to say repeatedly that African people in the United States are disorganized. I don't agree with that. I know
No.
what he meant. He
Mm-hmm.
meant that we're not organized with a political consciousness and a political agenda. That's what he meant. But we're the most organized people that I can think of, because there's not a black person I know who doesn't belong to a church or a civic organization or a Greek letter organization or
You're
a
right.
club or a garden club or something, and they take these things very, very seriously. They put in a lot of work into these associations and organizations that they belong to, and they're very proud of them. If these organizations, in addition to the things that they do, the luncheons and the awards dinners and the scholarship programs and the civic activities, in addition to those things, they also had representatives participating in meetings with representatives of other organizations, and they were all working on a coordinated and a unified political strategy for the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And this was something that was going on nationwide. We would have the leverage that we need in order to influence anything that we want politically, because they would know. I mean, you get millionaires and they show up. Elon Musk shows up and everybody jumps and says, well, the man's got billions of dollars, and so we got to do what he says to do.
Mm-hmm.
You got multinational corporations and they send their lobbyists and they say, well, they control this and they control that. We don't have wealth in that sense. We don't have major corporations that we dominate, but we have our people.
Mm-hmm.
And if we go to them and we say, well, look, I'm not just standing here representing the NAACP. I'm representing millions and millions of organized Black people
Mhm.
who, if you don't do what we say, will do A, B, and C to you, and just try us. You think we're joking? Just try us. All I got to do is put out the word on social media, and you're going to have all of us right here at
Mhm.
your doorstep, making life very difficult for you. We will get what we want.
Mhm.
But
And
it,
that goes back to what we know right now. Right now, based on what I read, is that the citizens in Texas can file a complaint. It goes back to the legal ramifications of this.
Right.
File a complaint. Thousands can file a complaint and say this is not acceptable for us.
Mhm.
We need representation and we need to be able to vote in May. They can file a complaint today, tomorrow.
Mhm.
The regular, everyday citizen can do exactly what you're saying. It costs them nothing. And
Yeah.
so your point is well taken. And that's what I'm saying. March and then find out what the agenda is. Find out what we can do within organizations, the Divine Nine, the
Mhm.
NAACP,
Mhm.
League, the Black lawyers, the Black accountant,
Mhm.
coming together. Miss Jones, the person who is the deacon of the church, is 99 churches on 10 blocks. You know, if we could just put the church people together
Yeah.
and say, this is not acceptable, Governor Abbott. We
Mhm.
are not accepting this. And we're doing it through the process that is set in the Constitution of
Mhm.
Texas. This is something they can do. File a complaint today with the Secretary of State in
Mhm.
Texas.
And to give that more leverage, it would help if majority of those people filing that complaint live in the district.
Yes. And that's where Santina marching comes,
Mhm.
organizational structure, having your
Mhm.
Wednesday prayer sessions. After
Yes.
you
Mhm.
have your Wednesday prayer session, you say, "Well, tomorrow at 8 o'clock we're in morning, we're going to go down and we are going to sign our petition and our
Mhm.
complaint." You see where I'm going?
That's
That's
Mhm.
not
that's
even
what
where
we're
you're
taking.
going. I'm saying this is where we've been
Mhm.
because
Right, we have.
that, I
So
mean,
we need to do it again.
yeah,
We
yeah,
definitely need to
that's
continue to do it.
and we can't be too cute to do it.
No.
Wait,
No.
because no, because I'm saying we have gotten cute and comfortable.
Right,
Mhm.
right, right.
Because
This
when
is
you
true.
look at because when you look, Dr. King connected people. All he did was organize.
That's it.
We had more than 70 push chapters all across the country who
Mhm.
made Reverend run. He was trying to make the case for other people to do it.
He
Mhm.
He,
was.
he said no. He said no because they're going to be better at they they will be more successful because they're more acceptable. Black folks said, "I don't care. No, I want no. You gonna do this. You gonna
Right.
run." And I'm saying that was day in, day out,
Mhm.
organizing, being on point. Push has been open 6 days a week. If you needed your gas on, if you needed to get your child out of jail, if they had been disappeared, because that's been going on here for a long time, and you know it, Mark.
Mhm.
Disappearing Americans is not new.
Mhm.
We've been doing that a long time. We understand that.
Yes.
And I'm just saying it's not where we have been. And he's absolutely right because it's the element of surprise that always helps you. And what they don't expect is for us to stop being cute.
Mhm.
Okay? Because we've gotten some lovely houses. And we don't do write-ups about the teachers and the garbage workers and the mother of the church. We're celebrating all the new black billionaires
That's right.
and the
We
millionaires.
celebrate the influential people.
Well, we make them influential, even
Mhm.
though they don't really spend a lot of time with us.
Not at all. We forget the grassroots people.
Even though the wealthy people of old were very, very rooted in our community,
Mhm.
and we could access them. When John Johnson opened his building downtown, that a black architect designed, John Matusami, whose daughter ended up marrying Arthur Ashe, Jeannie Matusami. When he built that building, you everybody started he you started doing field trips downtown as a grammar school student in high school because he wanted you to come in and see the building that he and your money built. through Ebony and Jet magazine. We don't have, our business people aren't connected like that anymore.
No.
We're not that, Diane,
Mm-mm.
Mark, Lavonia. We're too distant. There's a difference between a lovely bouquet of roses. I love them. I really do. But I know a plant is what's going to last. Because roses have been cut. They're dead.
Right.
They're beautiful. They ain't alive.
Yeah. No longevity at all.
Well, they
But you
gone.
know, Coma Cottrell with Proline did the
Yeah.
same thing right here in Dallas, Texas.
And remember he had the conventions
That's
where
right.
all the hairdressers could come and meet each other.
That's right.
And then you could come and buy the product.
He sure could.
It's going to take that kind of connection again, and listening to
Mhm.
people like Mark, who is revolutionary minded.
Yes.
I get him on here and I get in all kinds of trouble with him, but I love him because he helps to keep us on point, and he's a godly man. Because without God, we can do nothing,
That's right.
and we should do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't deserve anything without God. And my mama told us when we were in San Francisco at this 84 convention, and you've heard me tell this story many times, Mark. She walked into the living room. Everybody was typing, eating, blah, 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 blah. And she said, flesh and blood did not reveal this to me, but I want you to know that God is not going to let us go into this White House committing the misdeeds of our oppressors.
Mm-hmm.
We must be righteous or we cannot go at all. We're not going to go in there bombing people, everybody. If that's the price, then we can just fold up our tents right here. My father was just standing in the doorway. And she said, and flesh and blood did not reveal this to me.
Mm.
Well, the good news for this conversation for me, is that you have sparked something to say that you
That's
want me
right.
to say, that we can do it again.
That's right.
We must do it again.
Mm-hmm. We have to.
We have no choice. If it is to be, as I always say, it's up to me. Period. End of story. Collectively, we have all this talent that's around us, even with the business people that we have to drag along. They will come. But while they are coming, we need to create an environment where you go back to what the attorney just said, that they're saying, oh my God, I did not know that African Americans would actually show up like this at the State House and demand that we have a vote in May. I did not know they would leave the church on Sunday at 2 o'clock, get on the buses and sign a petition to say that Secretary of State, you need to investigate Governor Abbott in terms of this process. That's not what they plan on doing. They want us to pray through it, and we will pray as we move forward and make a difference and use all the tools. See,
that's right.
Your mom is right. We got tools that our mothers, let's put it this way. We have tools that the generation right before us didn't have. We got many more tools now than the generation just before us.
We have worldly tools.
We need to use all of them more.
That's right. But we have worldly tools, but we've released a godly tool.
Yes.
You guys, before we leave, I just need Mark to repeat.
And no. I'm going to go around because I only have like 4 minutes left, and I'm glad you all have it. And Diane, you got a couple minutes.
I'm gonna give Mark my 3 minutes because I want him to repeat the riff that we should do. I want him to just repeat those words again.
Okay, Mark, you got it. Because we got God and organizing from Livonia.
Yes, and it's true. Faith without works is dead. I got the faith and I'm willing to do the work. Just give me the words.
You see, now she's up in the camera, okay? So
yes, I'm serious.
No, I just want to pick up on what Santita just said, that look, let's not take any of this too seriously, because the whole political scene, the machinery of politics is a filthy thing. It's a creation of this world and the most evil forces in it. And it means us no good. We can't avoid it. I mean, it's been imposed on us, and we have to use it and exist within it and work it the best way that we can. But we can't put our faith in it. We can't rely on that. Our faith comes from God,
Yes.
and it's in God and what He wants. I mean, we have to remain, completely engaged spiritually, so that we know how to deal with the affairs of the world. And I think that if that's the way we're focused, then we're not bound by the rules and limitations of the political process. If we need to go outside of the political process and go into the judiciary and seek a writ of mandamus to force the governor to do what he's got to do, then that's what we got to do. If we've got to go beyond the United States, and we know that we've got people who are tortured and harassed and oppressed by the same people who are oppressing us, they're doing it in Palestine, they're doing it in Africa, they're doing it in Central and South America. And the people who are oppressing us tell us, those are all bad people. Don't talk to them. Don't organize with them. Don't coordinate with them, because they know that that's part of the secret to our getting out from under their thumb. So if they're telling us not to talk to certain populations, if they're saying all the Palestinians are terrorists, even as the state of Israel is bombing the daylights out of them and killing all of their children, if they're telling us that the people in Africa and the Sahel who are standing up to the United States militarily and saying, don't come in here and ravage our country, and they tell us don't connect with them, don't talk to them, if they're telling us not to talk to the people in Cuba and Venezuela because they say those are bad people, then we know that those are probably good people, and that those are people that we should be working with. Because when we begin to expand our community beyond just this little group that is regarded as a minority in this country, and we see that if we look at people of goodwill around the world, we see there are far more of them than there are of the evil forces which have caused us so much misery. And if we're organized among ourselves in this country, and we're coordinating and organized with people of goodwill who are oppressed around the world, victory is certain, especially with God's blessing.
Amen.
Victory, oh, victory shall be mine. Victory, oh, victory. Victory shall be mine. And I mean that for everybody, red, yellow, black, brown, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. If we can grow up spiritually, then God will bless us in every conceivable way.
Sure will.
But we must be humble and say that we're sorry for having unclean hearts and for having bloody hands, because we're all in this. So think about that, everybody. Think about that. Think about that. And I don't care where you are. You need to let the governor of Texas know, from Detroit down to Dallas, over to Chicago, and every place else. You need to let the governor know that some Americans are not being represented, and that's not going to work for you. It's the people of Houston today. It's everybody else tomorrow.
That's right.
If he can get away with this, denying people a representative for a year, this will be 9-10 months. No, that's not right. That's not right. So everybody, let's go on and let's be about the Father's business, and let's get the work done. That's what we need to do. I love everybody. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. God bless you.